You know, we've often said on the show, have we not, that when you get things by royal appointment, it's really fascinating. I don't know if you feel that, but you know, when you see these things where they've been given, the award to literally say the tea supplied to His Majesty the King or the Queen or whatever. But it must be very difficult when you think about it if you're putting together an historical event, a TV drama. And this is exactly what happened when I look back into the archive and listened to an interview that I'd undertaken with not just one but two major stars of one said historical drama. Well, this happened when I look back at a lovely interview that I was lucky enough to literally undertake with the brilliant and now late actor Timothy West and, of course, his wife Prunella Scales. Many people will know her, of course, from Fawlty Towers, but Timothy West really was a brilliant actor and really undertook so many parts. But what was interesting was this. See, way back in 1975, this brilliant drama from ATV television, Edward VII, really did rock the nation. It was the #1 rating smash, with, of course, the brilliant Timothy West taking on the lead role as Edward VII, alongside a superb actress, Annette Crosbie, as Queen Victoria. Later to be, of course, Victor Meldrew's wife in One Foot in the Grave. You see how these things come around. Also in the cast was the beautiful Felicity Kendall. Now, she was known, of course, to the rest of the world as Barbara Good in the brilliant comedy The Good Life. And she'd already met, obviously, the Queen during a recording of The Good Life. But what was fascinating about this, and this is the difficulty that you don't necessarily have today, because this was all about respect. Remember, this is 49 years ago now. You forget that, right? Now, where it gets really interesting is ATV was owned by Lord Lew Grade. Lord Lew Grade, alongside his brother Bernard Delfont and Leslie, well, they ruled show business. Theatre, television, you name it, film. They were literally the byword in entertainment. I was lucky enough to interview and meet and become friends with Michael Grade. Yes, he still, of course, is a huge showbiz magnate even to this day. But here's where it gets even more interesting. You see, the bottom line really was, this was sort of seen as a rather controversial drama. Let's not forget, this is history, if you like, but quite a few years down the line. And they were kind of worried about exactly how the Queen may feel about this portrayal of one of her relatives, a former monarch. Now, again, where you sort of find this fascinating is when you interview people. Timothy West said that actually he was more concerned about getting the look of the character right, because obviously at that period they have stuff to work from, pictures, etc. But then what happened was this got back to Buckingham Palace, and there was sort of, well, what are you planning? What are you doing? So the bosses of ATV had to submit elements of the script to let the monarch, let the people inside Buckingham Palace see exactly what they had planned. Imagine that now when you think about the scurrilous sort of stories that The Crown did over on Netflix. You know the sort of thing I mean. And eventually they had word back from Buckingham Palace that yes, okay, this seems all right as such. But, ATV, as I say, headed by Lord Lew Grade, was still very nervous, because if he went ahead with this and this offended the monarch, well then what would he do with the show? That's how powerful the monarchy still were back then. Well, what happened was they made a few episodes, there were 13 in all, and they sent in advance the master tapes to say, is there anything that you'd like changed or different or whatever? According to this very well-placed source, backed up, of course, by Timothy West, Prunella Scales and Felicity Kendall. And apparently what happened was they said, no, it's perfectly fine. We're really happy with it. In fact, we can't wait to see the rest of it. So before the rest of the country, yes, that's right, saw this stellar, literally wonderful period drama, which garnered a lot of critics and really set, a lot of tongues wagging, because it was very controversial. And when you think about it also, it actually featured a lady in it that is still sort of prevalent today. As we know, a relative of Alice Keppel, a former mistress of Edward VII, well, the relative is now our Queen, Queen Camilla. You see how history, in many respects, simply repeats itself. But as I said, think about this today. Would any television company have the courtesy, in fact, to say to the monarch, do you like this? Would this be offensive in any way? Anything you're unhappy with? In those few short years, how far has respect fallen? And more importantly, Did you like Edward VII with Timothy West? I thought it was terrific, and many episodes, if not all, are now free and available to watch on YouTube. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.